Hey, Coach, what's going on?
I'm doing okay. How about
We're
you?
doing good. It's an honor to talk with you, especially now. I mean, we're getting into it. I was up last night. These games that start at 9 o'clock, and now all the games you gotta watch because everybody's fighting for either seeds for the NCAA tournament, or I know you work for a different conference, and mostly a
Yes,
fan of, which
yes.
I'm an SEC guy. But we're all fighting for
Uh,
conference seeds. How does inside the locker room? How does it change? Here we are, early March. Does it change? Is it palpable whenever it's like, okay, now we got to play for a spot?
yeah, there's no doubt. It means so much. You work all year to get to this point, and it is really really important. I really think it comes down to the coaches always want it, but do the players want it, and how much do they want it? And they have to. This is the time of the year the players take the accountability, the players take the responsibility, and they're the ones that take the thing to a new level. And they have their shining moments and put themselves in position that accomplish things and have special memories.
Were you ever like, guys, I can't really communicate with you how important this is? And then they were like, yeah, coach, you were right. Like, we should have listened to you. Here we got the conference tournament, and you were right, and we didn't really understand the gravity of the situation.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's funny. Like 2 weeks ago, my SIU Southern Illinois team, we celebrated our Sweet 16, 20th anniversary of our Sweet 16 run. And for Southern Illinois, it's three times in the history of their school from the Missouri Valley to get into Sweet 16. So it was really really special. But to be with those guys and to hear some of them say, "Coach, all your messages still haunt me."
Mm.
20 years later, and things you told me, it's part of my life, and you're right. And there's guys that have had great success, and there's other ones that have struggled, just like in normal life. And it's funny to hear one of them wouldn't come back, and he was one of our best players, and he said, "Coach, I'm not coming back until I'm ready and proud of what I'm about as a person, before I come back and I'll bring my family back then." And because we wanted to fly him back, we wanted him back. And, it was interesting to hear his perspective.
When you look back at all the years that you've coached young men, meaning, you can go back to even when you were a GA at Western Kentucky, which was like 79, 80 or so. Is there a responsibility that you felt, or when did it become most prominent? My head football coach in high school, I didn't have a dad, so he's a big part of the discipline that I learned. And when you talk just now about your guys that are like, we remember what you said then, I still hold a lot of that stuff from my head football coach to this day because I didn't have a strong male influence for most of my life. When did that become real to you that a lot of these kids lean on you for the same thing?
Well, it's actually why I got into coaching, to be honest. And, uh, I got our family story, and I don't want to bore you, but my dad came over from Austria when he was a young child. Didn't get the education. They spoke German, and and he really never got to go to college. And he just told all five of we had five kids, didn't have much money, three boys in one room, and we switched off who slept on the floor. But he just said, "You're all going to be teachers and coaches." Because there's no better way in life than to help somebody and to be part of their life. And so we all were teachers and coaches. One of my brothers is in the Wisconsin High School Hall of Fame. One's in the Illinois High School Hall of Fame. Sisters taught and coached. And then I was the one who had a whim. I was a high school coach. I wanted to be a college coach, just kind of a crazy miracle story that I got involved. And then, 40, whatever it is, 44 years later, I had a lifetime of special memories. But my whole thing when I started, and it's changed so much. Obviously, the money you talk about March Madness and the Final Four and all that stuff. But I got into it because I wanted there to be there to help young men and help them learn and grow and be part of their life, because there are so many guys like you talked about that don't have the father there. And so it's the part I loved. I was talking with Tom Izzo from Michigan State this morning, and I just said, he goes, "What do you miss?" And I told him, every day you woke up, you had to be there to help somebody. And because, you're getting a call from your player or staff or somebody in the community or whatever. And that's the part. And I'm still getting calls. I got called from him this morning. So, but I'm still getting the calls but it's not the same when you're you're coaching every day, and you're meeting with them and helping them through crises, and hopefully where it means something in their life. And I go back, my guys, even 40 years ago, I was about their same age. They bought beer for me because I didn't make any money. And I Coach Katie, my old boss, who was in Arkansas, he was with Eddie Sutton, and that run with the triplets and that way back. And Coach would say, go check on them at night, make sure they're doing okay. Well, I went to the bars so they could buy me beer. So I made $2,000 or whatever it was for the year. But even those guys, you still stay in contact with them, and their dads. And I ended up recruiting some of their kids, and it's just a special career, a special life that I was able to be part of.
Being on the Big Ten Network, with you talking about college hoops all the time, it's a different job for you. Obviously, you pull from the same knowledge, but do you like doing this job now where people are saying, hey, tell me your opinion on this, or do you miss coaching every single day?
Oh, I miss coaching. Like I said, I wake up, to have that, it's stressful, but you kind of love it. Guys will say, why would you want to get back into it if it's so hard? And it's gotten harder as we've gone with the NIL, the name, image, and likeness, and the portal, and all the different things. But you still, that involvement with people every day, and I miss that part. But the Big Ten Network, I didn't know if I would love it, but I do like it. I stay involved. I stay in touch with the coaches. The coaches take my calls, or they call me. So many guys, and I don't know how many former players, managers, assistant coaches that are still coaching. So you stay connect with them, and you live and die their highs and lows, and help them and give them advice whenever you can. So this has been a nice thing, a nice in between. A couple days a week, I get out of the house, and my wife gives her a little bit of time to relax. And I'm a guy that I don't like to sit, and I want to do something. So, it's some early mornings and late nights, but it's been fun.
3 more wins, and you have 500 career wins. Like, is that in the back of your mind? Like, I got to get back in this. I got to at least hit 500 here.
Oh, if the right situation came about, and even my wife, she's fine with it. She loved it. She loved being part of it. And, but it would have to be the right thing for her, for my family. I had 3 girls, 3 wonderful girls, 4 grandchildren, 2 granddogs, or 3 granddogs. And, I want to be around them, because my wife has sacrificed for 42 years. I mean, it's you give up your life when you coach. I mean, we work, 340 days a year. You get long weekends, and to be with the family and stuff. But even when those weekends came about, I'd say, I'm going to take a walk. She goes, no, you're going to go make calls. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to make calls, but I'm going to take a walk. So it was such a grind, but it was fun, and we loved it. And, we were at special places, from, starting at Western Kentucky, my start at Purdue for 18 years with Coach Katie as an assistant. I was one of the longest assistants in the history of college basketball. And, I was so young when I started and got that break, and then to go to SIU and take them to the Sweet 16 and NCAA at-large bids. And, and then obviously Illinois going to the national championship game with that group, and then K-State helping them win two Big 12 championships. They hadn't done that in about 40 some years. So, and an Elite 8 run. So it's just been a blast. Great memories. I'm just very, very fortunate.
When we think of nerves, we often think about players being nervous before a game, or as the intensity of the game starts to come down into the game. But what about coaches? Like, you're talking about, getting to the Final Four, playing in the national championship game. As the head coach, are you also just paralyzed with nerves, but you just don't want to show it? Or as a coach, you're like, I know what I'm doing. I don't actually have to get out there. How is that before a game?
Oh, there's no doubt you're nervous, and the build up, and that's just part of it. I tried to take a walk, tried to relax, anything you could do. You had your little routines and that, but but once you get to the game and that ball goes up, that adrenaline's going and the mind's going, and it's funny because I watch the games in the studio now. We sit in the green room, watch games, and then we come on at halftime and after the game and all that. The games go so fast, but when I was coaching, it was 2 hours was like an eternity. It was like, oh my goodness, how long is this game? And then you get to that last minute and you lose those close games, or it goes your way, whatever, all the highs and lows, the emotions. It drove you nuts, to be honest. So but it was part of it. You just loved it and you came back for it again. It's like, to me, it's like an addiction, I guess, that, being there and helping the team and giving them advice and all that stuff. And when you win, you feel great. When you lose, it's misery.
I'm going to get to some current basketball questions in a second, but we need your advice because this is Eddie. Eddie's my best friend. Eddie is a co-host on the show.
Hey, Coach.
He was coaching 9-year-olds.
Hey, Eddie.
He almost got thrown out of a 9-year-old basketball game, Coach. 9-year-olds.
It's my son's team, Coach.
The ref said if you
Eddie,
say
you got to chill.
Yes.
Well,
you need officials.
Yes, go.
Coach, let me ask you a question, though. So I yelled. I never yell. This was probably our 10th game. I never yell at the refs, but they weren't calling anything. So I got frustrated, and I yelled at him, and he blew the whistle. He said, "One more comment from you, and you're out of here." And I looked at my assistant, and I said, "Do you think I should get kicked out? Like, we're down 10 points. We got about 7 minutes left. Do you think this will energize the boys if I purposely get kicked out? You think that works, Coach?"
Oh, there's no doubt. It's funny because Matt Painter, who is the coach of Purdue, and they've been number one, and Matt played for me at Purdue. I helped recruit him, and then he was my assistant, and he hasn't gotten a technical in 8 years, and his fans are actually like questioning, why aren't you getting a technical? It's just, and I think sometimes, and we talked about it, I was on with some the head official from the Big Ten the other day on a Zoom, and we were just talking. I think sometimes a technical can really, get the players, you feel like you have their back. The other thing is it takes the attention away from the players, and maybe they can relax a little bit. So, I think, but if you do it too much, now the officials who we need in the game, and one of the biggest crises in sports right now is getting umpires and getting officials, and because young people, I don't know if they don't see the value to get young guys in it, but also in young ladies, but also they don't want to deal with people like you, Eddie. You yell at them all the time. It's just so they don't. Why should I do this for $12 an hour? And then this guy's going to yell at me who doesn't know anything. So
for 9-year-olds. You think they're going to galvanize and be like, let's go win this for Dad?
He has a good point.
Yeah.
I think there's a fine line, and I got technicals along the way. I didn't get a whole lot. My old boss, Coach Katie, that was his whole thing. I mean, you grew up in that era. I grew up, with Coach Knight and Judd Heathcote and Lute Olson and Coach Katie in that early part of the Big Ten. And technicals, things they said, the officials, it was, oh my goodness. And now it's changed because the TV changed so much, and all the cameras, and they're up close. And, I watched Coach Katie. He had to change his demeanor because he'd be the leadoff on SportsCenter, with his rants and raves and all that stuff. So, it's different. But I would tell you, and again, if you go back and watch film, 96% of the time, the officials are probably correct. Now the problem is that 4%, and if it affects the game, it makes it really tough to deal with.
And they're 9, Eddie. 9 years old. They're also 9.
9 years old.
They're 9.
Just be kind.
Just be kind. Yes. Question about Purdue, Coach. Indiana swept Purdue. Does that say a bunch about Indiana, or does it say that maybe Purdue's a little overrated?
Well, I think Purdue overachieved, Matt is a great coach, and not just because he's my guy or whatever. He does a great job coaching. He's got he's got players that want to be coachable. I think as you get into the season, it's about matchups, and you're going to see this in the tournament. There's so many teams in that. You look in the SEC, you look in the Big Ten. Everybody's 10-8 or 9-7 or whatever. There's so much balance, and you're going to see the matchups are going to be so important. And also, as the season goes on, people figure out how to beat you. Whether it's the NFL or whatever, they find people copy. I was thinking of it. I'm a Packer fan, so I grew up, Milwaukee. I'm watching them play against Miami at Christmas Day, and the quarterback, who had been unbelievable, but the week before somebody figured something out dropping the linebackers and had 3 interceptions. Well, the Packers do it and they intercept them a bunch. So late in the season, people find stuff that changes games. There's a formula. Matt Painter knows it. There's a formula to beat Purdue. And if you have the right system, if you have the right players and the kids are coachable, you can beat them. There's no doubt. But if they get the right matchups, they can make a run. And they have Zach Edey is like, I don't know, I was on with some radio guy. He called him an alien, but I mean, he is a big, big guy, and he's got a great touch, and he plays his butt off, and he's coachable. And so he gives them a total different dimension than anyone else has.
Self-scouting, and just an analogy here, and I'll end with this. So I'm always trying to figure out what I can do to better myself as doing a radio show or doing a TV show or doing whatever. So with the radio show, I would hire people to tell me how to beat me. I'd have them listen to me, and I would say, I'm going to pay you. I hire 2 people at the same time, and I want you to listen to all this tape. And if you were building a show to beat me, find my weaknesses. What show would you build to beat me? And so that's what I would do. And they would present these reports to me, and they would say, well, this is how I beat you. This is what I do to bring it. And then I would try to cover up those, right? And then I hired somebody to teach me how to beat me, and then I would try to beat whoever's trying to beat me. Now, as a basketball coach, obviously people are trying to figure out how to win matchups, win games. Would you ever do that to your own team, figure out how to beat you, and then try to plug those holes?
Yes, there's no doubt. People hire former coaches to come in, scout their team, write up reports how you would beat them. And sometimes we'd show it to the players. Here's what the other people are saying about you. And this is, or we would, when we have friends in the business that we trust, like, and I was at Illinois and Matt Painter just took over Purdue. I mean, we could trade scouting reports and say, what do you think about us? Once we're done playing, obviously, You're not going to do that in the middle of the season. And yeah, so you bring people in. We all have our people we trust. You have that little group of coaches that you grew up with, and you talk to them all the time. The late night recruiting trips, they're up because they can't fall asleep either, and you're talking to them. And but yeah, you bring people in, bring them into practice, and let them watch you and critique you. It's hard, but I'll tell you this: my old boss, Coach Katie, who is up for the Naismith Hall of Fame this year again as a finalist, and I don't understand why he's not in there, but because he kind of did everything in the business from high school to junior college to assistant at Arkansas to one of the winningest coaches in Purdue history, USA basketball gold medals, assistant on the Olympics gold medal, NBA assistant, all that stuff. But Coach Katie, who was tough and grumpy and all this, he said, if you want to stay in the business, you got to be flexible and you got to change. And we have a saying: if nothing changes, nothing changes. And, our players will call me that all the time and say, Coach, they'll just randomly call and say, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So, that's just part of life. You got to change. You got to stay flexible. You got to stay up with it. The times, basketball changes, kids change, people change. If you don't stay up with it and you get, we always say, get fat and sassy, you're gonna lose listeners and somebody else is gonna come on.
Yeah, that's probably happening anyway. But look, Coach, just massive fan, and if you're out and you're one of the tournament sites and I'm out there, I may hit you up and be like, Coach, I want to say hello. So just super big fan, and just who you are and how you've done it, and I appreciate the time you spent with us today.
Thank you. It's been an honor, pleasure. My daughter got me hooked up with this. My daughter Emily. Her husband's from Greenwood, Arkansas. If you know about Greenwood,
I do.
Football. He played football there. She went to Illinois, and we told her never date athletes, and she ended up marrying one. So, it's been a pleasure being on. She listens every day. She loves it. Another daughter listens, and so big fans of you. I've been listening to different things. Once she told me, she was so excited, Dad, you better not screw this up. I got you on here. So hopefully I did okay.
You did great, Coach.
If we're at a site or at the Final Four and you're cheering for the Hogs, please tap me on the shoulder.
I will, Coach. Thank you for your time. Hope you have a great day.